Hey guys, this is Dr. Steve Orma, and in today's video, I'm going to do something a little different. Normally I do kind of a live video of myself just speaking to the camera about a certain topic, and today I'm going to try something different because I want to kind of show you this from a different angle. And what I want to talk about today is why sleep tips or why tips for overcoming insomnia don't work. And I thought the best way to sort of show you this is just to go online, and which is what most people do when they have insomnia. You know, like one of the first things they're going to do is go online. They're going to do a Google search for, how to overcome insomnia or tips for overcoming insomnia. And I just want to show you what comes up. And what I want to show you here is like tips. Tips don't work for insomnia. In fact, tips don't work really for anything. It doesn't really matter what it is: weight loss, starting a business, how to improve your relationship. Tips just do not work because they don't go deep enough. And things aren't usually that simple. If it was just tips that all people needed to get a better relationship or lose, 100 pounds or, to come off drugs or to overcome insomnia, then no one would have these problems, or very few people would have these problems. All you would have to do is go on Google, type in whatever the tips you needed, and, very quickly you just, apply those tips and the problem goes away. Well, why are people still dealing with all these problems? And in some areas more than ever. There's unlimited amount of tips and websites and things you could find online, and same thing with books. But people are still dealing with all these problems and many more problems. And the reason is they don't really go to like what is the actual solution that actually works for this problem. And there's a lot of things that cause this issue, but let's just start off first. And I'm doing this totally live. I don't have anything prepared beforehand. And because I just want to go in and do what people normally do. So let's say you've been dealing with insomnia for the past several weeks, maybe months, and you're really concerned about your sleep, and you want to solve this problem that you're having, which is difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep or both. And you're trying to figure out what can you do to solve the problem. So you go on Google and you put in, how to, let's see, tips, right? Tips for overcoming, well, you could actually see I have it here already, right? Tips for overcoming insomnia. Okay, so the very first thing that comes up is, of course, WebMD. A lot of times when you're searching for stuff for really any kind of medical or psychological problem, WebMD will come up, or Healthline will come up. And so this is the top thing that Google chose to bring up, is these 10 tips to beat insomnia. So let's just check this out. Wake up at the same time each day. Okay. Now this is actually a good tip, right? But what time should you wake up? And what if you have been doing this and it's not working? And the problem I see with insomnia is sometimes people will find a tip online for how to overcome the insomnia, and they'll apply the tip, and maybe sometimes it kind of works, but most of the time it doesn't work. And they get discouraged and they think, oh, yeah, I'm not able to overcome my insomnia, or that tip's no good. And the problem with tips is it doesn't give you the full picture. So waking up at the same time each day is really important to overcome insomnia, but it's one piece of a much, much greater pie. And if you just do that, you're not going to overcome your insomnia. Okay, number 2 here, eliminate alcohol and stimulants. Okay, this is a sleep hygiene thing. This will do nothing to eliminate insomnia. It just make you more frustrated, and then you'll be even more maybe frustrated, because if you like drinking alcohol, or you like smoking, or you like drinking coffee, now you're going to be even grumpier because you're giving up things that you enjoy. And this will do nothing to overcome insomnia. Limit naps, exercise. Okay, again, these are all sleep hygiene, limit activities in bed. Yeah, they can be good, but again, that on its own isn't going to do anything. Don't drink at night. Make your sleep environment comfortable, right? Cool, dark, and quiet. That's the common, and that's good. That'll make a better sleep environment, but that's not going to get rid of your insomnia. So what I want to do in this video, just so you know, it's not just, sort of criticizing what people normally do or criticizing what doesn't work, is in the next series of videos, I'm gonna talk about what actually does work, and I'm gonna go in more detail than I have before. Okay, so I've talked about the cure for insomnia, which is a treatment called CBTI, or cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, as really the gold standard for insomnia, for getting over it. And I've talked about it sort of in very sort of high level, but I'm going to go into a little more detail about all the components of it, so so you actually have a better idea of what's involved and kind of the mistakes and misconceptions that people have about that treatment, if you're even aware of it. Most people aren't even aware of that treatment. But even if you are, there's a lot of sort of mistaken beliefs or false assumptions about it that I'm going to clear up. So I'm going to do that in the next series of videos. But for today, I just wanted to go over this idea of that you can solve this problem with tips, because pretty much every person that comes to me for help with their insomnia has been through this. They've gone online, they've talked to their doctor, they've gotten all these tips to solve the problem. They've been trying it for months, sometimes even years, and it hasn't worked. And I want to save you, this is important, because I want to save you weeks or months or years of doing this kind of thinking that you're just going to get one or two or a handful of tips and that's going to solve the problem. Because otherwise, because what that will do is just make you more frustrated. So let's see what else we have here. Here we go. 10 tips to beat insomnia. This is from National Health Service. This is in this is in Great Britain. This is in their nationalized healthcare service. Here's tips. Keep regular sleep hours. Okay, again, but a lot of people, almost everybody that comes to me, well, not everybody, but a lot, have a regular, sleep hours. They go to bed at a certain time, they wake up at a certain time, but within that period, they're not sleeping, right? So then what do you do then? So that won't work. Create a restful sleeping environment, right? You'll see this all the time. Comfortable bed, exercise, again, the caffeine, don't smoke. So all these things, are just these sort of random lists of tips, right? And the tips aren't even consistent. You'll see all different kinds of random tips on these lists that, that aren't integrated, most of them don't even work at all. And you're trying to implement them and they don't work, or sometimes people will get some effect from them in the short term. Sometimes I think that's just placebo, because they think, oh, I'm using this tip and it came from this reliable source, so my sleep, this should help my sleep. And then because they have that expectation, they sleep better for a few nights. But then of course it doesn't last. A few days later, they're back to where they were, and then they go to the next tip. And again, and then people just stay in this cycle until they realize none of this stuff works, and then they start getting hopeless, and they start thinking, I'm going to have to deal with this, just live with this the rest of my life. Or many times this is when they will go to medication because nothing else has worked. Let's see, we got the Cleveland Clinic. So these are reputable, world-renowned, clinics or medical facilities that these tips usually come from. This is from Penn Medicine, University of Pennsylvania. This is like an Ivy League university. Again, you're going to get you set a sleep schedule. Good. This is key. Having a sleep schedule is absolutely critical to overcoming insomnia, maybe the number one thing. But they don't tell you what schedule. How do you know what schedule? What time should you go to bed? What time should you wake up? Should you keep that same schedule every week? Like, those details are critical, because just any random schedule isn't going to work. Okay? Avoid caffeine. That one always is there. Alcohol, again. Medications, like side effects from medications. Okay? This is never... Insomnia isn't created by side effects from medication. That can contribute to poor sleep, but that doesn't create insomnia, which is a pattern of poor sleep. And I've talked about this on other videos. Exercise, again. Exercise is great. It's an amazing thing to do. And actually, exercise, if you are a normal sleeper and you don't have insomnia, can enhance sleep, can deepen it. It's good. But if you have insomnia, it ain't going to do anything. No matter how much you exercise, no matter when you exercise, it's not going to get rid of the insomnia. Okay. Bedtime Ritual. I mean, you've probably heard these things before if you've been online and you're looking for sleep tips. So this is just what you're going to find no matter how many pages on Google you go through. It's just going to be, okay, now we get into, these are like the supplements to sleep. Right, so supplements is very popular. Whether it's melatonin or magnesium or ashwagandha, or there's so many different supplements that are recommended for sleep. And again, they don't work. They don't work for insomnia. They're not going to solve that problem. And also the medication. I've talked about. I've had a whole video on why medication doesn't get rid of insomnia. And so these are just the things that you're going to find if you're looking for tips. And the reason why tips don't work, as I said at the beginning, is they just don't. It's like, think about it like this. If you have a brain tumor, are you going to go on Google and just look for tips for overcoming your brain tumor? I mean, I know no one's going to do that. Well, I don't know. No one. People probably do that as well. But with something like that, you're going to say, no, I want to go to a specialist. I want to go to a doctor, and I am not going to be able to get rid of my brain tumor on my own. Or if you have a broken arm, this is like, you could probably find tips for how to treat yourself if you have a broken arm, right? You're going to have to set it. You're going to have to you have to get an x-ray machine. You're going to have to x-ray it. You have to set the bone, maybe if it's sort of unaligned, and then you have to figure out how to create a cast that fits your arm. But no one does that, because they know that tips aren't going to fix the broken arm. They need to go to a professional who knows what they're doing, because otherwise they're going to mess it up. And their arm isn't going to heal correctly, or it's not going to heal at all, and they're going to be in a lot of pain. But people don't do this many times with psychological issues like insomnia or depression or anxiety. They look for tips online or in books, and those tips don't ever work, because a tip isn't going to give you the detail and the depth and all of, the way that you should be applying those things, applying those different tips or techniques. You're just not going to get, you're going to get like a drop of, maybe one thing that you need to do, but not the full picture. And then it just leads you to getting more frustrated, and just feeds, that cycle of insomnia, of anxiety and frustration, into like the behaviors, changing your sleep behaviors, which is what creates the insomnia, which feeds back into the anxiety, and that just gets fed more and more when you're looking for tips. So this is just, really good advice or things to know if you have like a serious problem in your life, whether it's insomnia or depression or anxiety or anything, and you haven't been able to solve it on your own just because you don't have the knowledge for doing it, which is fine, right? Like, we don't know a lot of things. Like, there's a lot that I don't know. And if I don't know it, then I'm going to go to someone who knows what they're doing, and I'm going to find the best if I have a medical issue, I'm going to find the best treatment. I'm going to find the best doctor. Whatever the problem is, if I have a problem with my car, I don't own a car anymore, but when I did, I took it to a mechanic that I found that I trusted and who was really good, right? I'm not going to go online and look for, tips for, when my engine is smoking, if I know nothing about the engine. I'd rather just take it into an expert and have them, solve the problem or tell me how to solve the problem. So, I wanted to make this video today because sometimes, I've gotten some comments sometimes when I've done my videos where people say like, I didn't get any tips. I want more tips for sleep. And the reason why I don't make videos with tips is they don't work. And like, if I'm going to give someone information, I want to give them information that, either they could directly apply and I've done this with anxiety, I've done this with certain things before. But I always present it in a certain context and like not as like a single tip that you're just going to do and then suddenly the problem is gone. Or I point people in the direction of what will solve the problem. So I've had videos where I mention the actual cure or solution to insomnia, which is called CBTI, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. That is the actual solution. But that's, I can't just talk about that in one short video because there's a lot that is involved in it. But I point people in the right direction. I don't come on and just throw out a few different like random tips or take pieces of things because it's not going to work. And then you're going to think like, you're going to think like, then these tips aren't working for me. So therefore, I can't solve the problem, or, those were the wrong tips. I'm going to go look for more somewhere else. And I want to keep you from falling into the trap. And I don't want to give people Band-Aids that don't work just to make you feel good for, a few days, but don't really solve the problem and not get to the core root issue. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. If you've been, and again, like everybody does this. I've done this. Everybody does this. I mean, Google's awesome. I love Google, and there is a lot you can learn on Google about a lot of things. But when it comes to, if you have like a serious problem in your life that you're not able to solve, you just don't know how to solve it because you don't have the knowledge or the skill or whatever it is, looking for tips is never going to be the solution to that problem, no matter what it is. If it's a significant problem, if you have a splinter or something like that, sure, you could go online and find out how to remove a splinter, and you could definitely find something like that on Google because that's a simple problem. But insomnia is not that. Okay, it requires a lot more, and I'm just being honest with you. That's just the case. It's a solvable problem, 100%. But there's a certain process that you have to follow. And you're not going to find that online just looking for tips. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing in the next, at least the next video or two, I'm not sure how many I'll do, but I'm going to give you more detail about the actual solution of insomnia and what that is involved in that. Like give you more details about that in future videos. And just so like you do have the right information if you decide you want to solve this problem and you're serious about it and you're motivated and you're just sick and tired of having the problem, I'm going to give you the solution of what are the steps that you need to follow to solve the problem, and or give you a much more detailed look. Now, like I'll just say right now, like, the treatment for insomnia, CBTI, as I've mentioned, is, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different details to it. It takes a lot of finesse it's like a multifaceted treatment, which is kind of why it's hard to get information on this treatment, because I can't just explain it in one video. But what I can do is explain each component in a little more detail than you've probably heard before, to give you a much clearer understanding of what that process looks like step by step as you go through it, and also kind of clear out some of the myths and the false beliefs people have about it if you've heard of it. Things like, for example, sleep restriction. That one is just very misunderstood, and it's actually a misnomer. And so I'll talk about that component of CBTI, and is that even the best thing to call it? And are we restricting your sleep? So I'll clear up some of those like myths or misunderstandings about the process for overcoming insomnia, and I'll give you kind of a full picture of what the process looks like step by step, and then that way you'll know what the solution is if you want to use it and you want to go and do it. All right. So I hope this video was helpful. I look forward to making the next, few videos for you to get into what actually will solve the problem. And I will see you next time.